Hello, welcome to Breakfast Central on a beautiful Tuesday morning. It's good to be back. It feels like an age. And, like what they say in the news cycle, 24 hours is a long time. And I'm just looking at the timelines of what I've missed from when I went on paternity leave. But, I mean, it's good to be back. Yes. You need to make the money to feed the body and to feed the baby. Yes.
Guess who's back? It's the man, Benga, in the house. It's good to have you back, bro.
Thank you.
Welcome. I mean, we missed you, like we always say.
Yeah, I missed you guys too.
Olive couldn't help, but she was crying every morning.
I saw you. Your shout out, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it was last week Monday.
Yes.
You guys were talking about me, and it was very touching.
Good. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
Different life, you're about to see it through a different eye.
Yes.
It's been good though, right?
Yes, it's been good apart from the sleepless nights. It's part of it. It's part of it. We're getting a hang of it, and very soon she'll transition to.
I'm sure.
Allowing us to sleep at night. She's punishing us now for bringing us to this. Why did you bring me to this?
She's supposed to be saying you brought me to the world, so you need to face what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, welcome. I'm sure you've also been catching up with the latest stories one way or
I'm
the
in
other.
Nigeria internationally. We're on the verge of Third World War. Thank God that's not happening. So many things happening, and so sad. Insecurity in Nigeria is also spiked.
Oh yeah, we also have that challenge.
And the politicking is still politicking. I'm sure if you drove through Third Mainland Bridge, you'd have seen the posters, campaign posters in 2025. It makes you think, okay, what year are we in? And it's intense. I've never seen this sort of politicking before.
This is the first time in a long time that we're going to see campaigns start outside the stipulated time and schedule by the Independent Electoral Commission. But when we had a guest join us here on the show, and we did ask him, why is it that there's so much focus on politicking? They said, no, don't say that. But then again, we'll continue to say these things. After all, we for those who have eyes, they can see. And those who have ears, they can hear. The only difference is we're not hearing radio commercials.
Yes, but
that's just the difference.
It's almost it's full-blown political season.
But we're seeing things. Anyway, welcome to Breakfast Central. It feels really good. Benga is back. Olive just taking a little break. She'll be back again. But we're back. That's the most important thing. And today, we'll be looking at some of the most important stories that's making the rounds, not just here in Nigeria. We're also going to crisscross on a very important conversation. Whether you like it or not would affect the way you live. Yes, what people don't really understand is that when it comes to news and current affairs, especially stories, especially actions, decisions, don't forget too, when it comes to some certain aspects of news and current affairs, it affects your everyday life. I bet you know that the fuel of price has the price of fuel, I beg your pardon. Goodness gracious. The price of fuel has gone up.
Yes, and
915 NMPC, 925 other fuel stations.
45 in different parts of the country. But as expected, the petroleum industry has been deregulated, so we're susceptible to global oil prices since subsidy has been removed.
Absolutely.
I mean, we enjoyed low prices when it was low. Up until last week, we were paying 800 something, and now it's 900, based on the tensions in the Middle East. But with going by what President Trump tweeted or what he truthed, because he stopped using
what he truthed and then copied and put it on X. Because that's what he does. He just copies and.
I mean, Truth is his own platform, so he won't want to give X undue advertising. So the information goes from Truth to X, like you said, that he's declared a ceasefire, and he's saying that please, all parties should respect the ceasefire. Then he signed this to President Donald J. Trump. Let's see. I mean, it's a volatile situation. Let's see if it holds. I mean, the prayer for the whole world is that the ceasefire will hold, so things can get back to.
The Vice President Vance was on a TV station live on Fox and a few hours ago, while he was live during the interview, and the presenter was talking to him. The presenter quickly saw the breaking story and then asked him, "Oh, this is what we've seen. We've seen that a truce, there's an agreement, and no more the ceasefire. I mean, and he said yes, absolutely. Okay. What they've been able to do is to obliterate Iran's nuclear weapons.
That's what he said.
That's what he said. Yes, exactly. He said that. Said they've been able to do that, and in quotes, he said, "I think that they've been able to do that clearly means that Iran has no access to any form of nuclear weapons." Therefore, he also mentioned that the president was able to do that. He said the president was able to do that to ensure that they had no more war, no more fights, everything is settled. That's it.
I mean, at the end of the day, you want a peaceful world, and we also want low gas prices. And I think one of the things that prevailed for Donald Trump, and he's more concerned about the business aspect of things and rising gas prices. And he knows that if the situation escalates beyond that, Americans will be buying gas at very expensive prices. So, I mean, and he also sees himself as a peacemaker. He's really hustling for that Nobel Peace Prize. Pakistan nominated him, but let's see if he gets it. You can, I mean, this people have said he's bombing his way to peace. Iran was on its own. You can't, I mean, the whole world acts like that preemptively and says, oh, I feel this person is trying to do this, therefore I'm going to preemptively strike. Then an eye for an eye will make the whole world blind. Yeah.
True, true. Anyway, that's the update. That's the news coming out from the war between Israel and Iran. And that's exactly what the update simply is, that there's been a ceasefire, no more war, and Donald Trump truthing it, and then, of course, Xing it to let every single person know. And then the Vice President Vance, on a live television interview, also acknowledging that and stating clearly that it's an end.
You know, it's really interesting how the news cycle works. Because it was the same yesterday that Iran sent ballistic missiles to the largest U.S. air base in the Middle East, Al-Udeid, in Qatar. And the Qataris came out and said, look, you're violating our sovereignty. Why would you do that? This is against international law and all of that. And the Iranians came out to say, look, we understand the brotherly love between us. Please forgive us for this. But it's not an attack against Qatar or the people of Qatar. It was just a response to US hitting our nuclear facilities. So it's nice that in less than 24 hours, things that could have gone really south. And I mean, I don't know who gets the credit here, but
it's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump. The credit is going to him. The credit is going to him.
The situation.
The credit is going to him. So he's saying that the agreement has been reached. Just in case you didn't see that tweet or that message, you could also check it out. It's right there. You'd find it. So the agreement reached. What this would mean is what we would also take a look at. But let's put up that tweet again, just for those who did not see that. Let's put up the information again that came from Donald Trump, stating, congratulations to everyone. It has been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now, when Israel and Iran have wound down and completed their in-progress final missions for 12 hours, at which point the war will be considered ended. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end of the 12th day war will be saluted by the world. Now, during each ceasefire, the other side will remain peaceful and respectful on the assumption that everything works as it should, which it will. I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12th day war. He even goes ahead to tag it. Now, this is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the Middle East, God bless the United States of America, and God bless the world, and God bless Nigeria. Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Okay, yeah, we also deserve the blessings from President Donald J. Trump. But I mean, looking at the way things happen in the Middle East, there's been ceasefires between Israel and the Palestinians. Israel has repeatedly violated those ceasefires. And the last one we had, there were exchanges of missiles up until the last hour of the ceasefire. Beersheba in Israel was really hit hard by the Iranians. And there's talks about, do you think Israel is going to hit back? Both parties abiding by the terms of the ceasefire? Because but this morning, things seem a bit quiet, but all we're hearing is from the American side. So America doesn't speak for Iran. America doesn't speak for Israel. So let's hope for the best, and hopefully both parties would keep to this ceasefire
is it also a case of playing God, as some have said, especially online, that this has moved the United States to quickly make the announcement so as to stand tall and say, listen, hey, the big brother, now this is fine, we made the announcement, conversations have been going on. And don't forget, you could see from the post, it's going to take, it's not just a ceasefire automatically. It's going to be 6 hours first.
And those hours have elapsed. So yes, I believe we're in that 24th hour now where both parties should have ceased fire.
Yeah.
But like you said, should he take credit for this? Going back and looking at the sequence of events, I mean, Iran is a member of the International Energy and Atomic Agency. They allow inspections. They are a signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT. Israel has known stockpiles of nuclear weapons. They are nuclear armed. They are not a signatory to the NPT. And then one country wakes up and says another doesn't have the right to. And IAEA's assessment does not say that Iran has enriched uranium to a level where they can develop it to a bomb. Israel preemptively invaded, bombed, killed scientists while they were in the middle of a negotiation. There were even negotiators that were assassinated by the state of Israel, leading to this tit-for-tat round that we've seen. And then the United States came in and decided to bomb Iran's nuclear facilities. So Iran, if you look at it, the sequence of events, the violators of international law have been the United States and Israel, and Iran has a right to defend itself. But because of geopolitics and the way things work in the world and Western mainstream media, they would paint it and, paint Iran as the aggressor. But the good thing is we live in 2025. I don't take my word for it. Go do your independent research and read from different sources and come up with your own assessment. But I mean, I'm just saying things as they played out and as a matter of fact. Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, a great analysis there as well. But we're going to move away from that first story on Wake Up Conversation and go to the second one. The second story on Wake Up Conversation has to do with a story that actually caught a lot of attention, and that was yesterday, Binga. This story had to do with the fact that Nigerians are worried. Why is it that ever since billions of naira was put into our refineries, particularly the refineries in Port Harcourt, it seems like nothing at all had been done, not has. But then again, we did remember that videos circulated. We did have members and team members of the NNPC, in this case, invite members of the press.
Oh, I remember
the
that
public.
Media tour.
Yes, the media tour where they said, oh, don't worry, everything is working. It's going to go fine. We are back and ready. And then we could hear a little seemingly distant voice saying, no, don't celebrate yet, Nigerians. We live close by to this refinery. We think it's a sham. We don't think it's working. And then, of course, remember, press releases came from the NNPCL saying, oh, forget what you heard. We're good to go. We're just not at optimal, level, but this is what we're doing. We're not producing this. This is what we're producing first, and then we would also continue to do this. Why am I going through all of this mention? It is because the refinery stopped working. It went back to its usual state that we know it to be, which is comatose. It went back to sleep. And the latest story coming out of that is that the EFCC has now arrested an ex-NNPC chief financial officer and others over $7.2 billion fraud. That's the story.
It looks huge, but going by the EFCC's trends over the years, media trial, and naming big figures, and also talking about the personalities they've arrested. Nigerians know better not to get excited until they get convictions. It's one thing to announce arrests, it's one thing to announce investigations, it's another thing to follow through, do a thorough investigation, take them to court, and the entire walk them through the entire justice system and get conviction. Until you start doing that, I mean, it's just another news headline that would get people excited and talking, and we'll get nothing out of it. Because, I mean, what's the point? And you could say this for so many cases. What's the EFCC's conviction rate? It's one thing to have sensational news and, talk about this big, and it's really sad because this is our Commonwealth we're talking about. $7.2 billion, that's the budget of many countries in the world, and to see this mismanaged, and to see how much the government has thrown into yearly turnaround maintenance of these refineries. These are not ghosts, these are human beings that are responsible for the management of these state institutions, and because of corruption or lack of competence, or one reason or the other, they fail to meet their set target. So there should be consequences if there's financial impropriety, if there's mismanagement of funds, if people had not followed due process, which is good, but I'm just taking this with a pinch of salt.
Winger, I think it's high time. I mean, don't forget that the one who was arrested, his name happens to be Mr. Umar Isa. He is the chief financial officer of the NNPCL. Now, he was also arrested. Alongside him was the ex-managing director of the Warri refinery. He was also arrested. Talking about Jimo Olasukomi, who happens to be the managing director of the Warri refinery. It's quite sad that you have 3 refineries. Nigerians have continued to ask,
yes.
Why are these refineries not working? You have refinery in Warri, you have in Port Harcourt, you also have in Kaduna. 3 of them not working. And then you have a set, or I would say a group, made up of Nigerians who would continue to antagonize, attack, abuse a refinery that is working, which is not owned by the federal government, but is owned by an individual, of course, whether he has a conglomerate. They decided to say, let's build a refinery from the scratch. You know,
it's functioning at optimal level.
It's shocking.
And we are even exporting refined products.
Benga, I don't even know. I wish they built the refinery from the scratch. Now, while these refineries were this particular refinery, which is the Dangote refinery that we're talking about, was undergoing complete startup, or put it that way, the other refineries are existing and have been in existence.
It's like 100-meter race, and
do you understand?
You are 80 meters ahead, and this person is starting from 0. He starts his race from 0, he overtakes you, and is still doing excellently
and
well.
Yet,
so what does this tell us? Yes.
Monies were being pumped.
Not cheap money.
Not cheap money.
Billions of
turnaround
dollars.
maintenance, as they've mentioned. Now we're talking about $7.2 billion. Now, monies were being pumped into these refineries to see if they can revive them and make them work. Remember during the Buhari time, they said, oh, don't worry, there were conversations around all of this. Monies have continually been pumped into these refineries to make them work. Yet, it seems like it's just a makeup, a pancake. Just put it there after all. Once people start talking about it, it's cosmetic. Once they start talking about it, okay, clean it off, let's go back to our status quo.
And these are taxpayers' money.
Who are the beneficiaries?
Exactly. These are the questions we need to ask. And the EFCC needs to do a thorough investigation. Everybody indicted. I mean, it's good that, they always say when in doubt, follow the money trail. It's good that the CFO has been indicted and invited for questioning, arrested. So he would say who approved of this, where did this money go. My hope is that the EFCC will do a thorough investigation, and everyone responsible for mismanaging these funds would face the law.
Well, don't forget that last week as well, we talked about the Senate Committee on Public Funds, talk about public accounts. They had met, and they saw discrepancies from 2017 to 2023. Some experts have come out to say, oh, those discrepancies are what everybody should know. Come on, it's not what it is. Joint venture, JV, go on and forth. And they kept asking. So could it be that it was the Senate Committee who raised these dust, and then the FCC quickly saw that and said, okay, let's also let's get in and see what we can do, regardless of whoever did it.
Then we need a thorough investigation and answers.
Now, is it that, or do you think, I don't know, let me ask you personally, do you think that naturally Nigerians are docile? Do you think
maybe they're overwhelmed with
Nigerians
different problems?
Or maybe this is another promo. You know how it is sometimes. You see promo, somebody has been caught. Somebody has been, it's just promo.
Nothing comes
like trailer in the movie. At the end of the day, you will never watch the movie.
The media moves.
You will never watch the movie.
Story on the news cycle. So we really need to follow through.
You will never watch the movie. It's just a trailer. After the trailer, oh, everybody's excited. It's going to be an action-packed movie.
The next trailer.
Then that's all. It's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Sad.
It's gone. But anyway, that's one of our wake-up conversations this morning. Very sad situation whereby Nigerians are expecting a lot. They're expecting nothing more than the best. But yet it seems like every single person is being taken for a ride. And you would also come to think about it, that you have very intelligent persons, people, individuals who continue to write their names in the sands of time, and are Nigerians who have done great things globally. And all Nigerians, I mean, we are smart, we're intelligent, we're beautiful, we're wonderful people. Then again, you wonder why it is that things like a refinery working now becomes electricity now becomes a story being hidden, or do we say it's also there's politicking?
I mean, it has to do with accountability and being fiscally responsible. And I mean, laws. We are a country of laws, and there should be consequences for breaking the laws. And until we see the political will of not just fighting corruption on the pages of newspapers or in speeches and actually doing something like this, I'm sorry, this cycle will just continue. It's just what it is.
I agree with you, Benga.
Yeah.
But let's see our next story on Wake Up Conversations. Well, if you recall, we've had him here on the show, and we're talking about a member of the then former president, Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. I'm talking about one who spoke tough and has continued to do so. Mr. Reno Mokri has come out to mention that his page on X has been hijacked. Now, he's not just saying, he's also pointing fingers to those who hijacked his page. He talked about, of course, a suspended senator, if you put 1 and 2 to what he's saying. He also mentioned some political parties. He also pointed fingers to the coalition and so on, saying they ensured that they hijacked his page because he has been speaking and spoke the truth. Did
he provide any evidence to that effect? I mean, we know he has a lot of... He calls himself a feather ruffler, is the table shaker. So when you shake tables, you don't expect people that will be very happy with you, because his brand of politics, looking at his trajectory, the way he was against the president, and did a complete 360. Yeah, so you've made enemies along the line, and some of the statements he makes, he's a highly controversial individual. However, I don't know if he's done any forensic analysis to ascertain that the people that hijacked his X or compromised his X account were those who is pointing fingers at. Because if you have enemies, I mean, known enemies that have said we don't like you, and you also don't equally like them, what we naturally tend to do as human beings is to point fingers.
They're the ones, because they don't like me.
It's those village people. Exactly. But life doesn't work like that. Do you have any evidence to back that? And if they could do it to your ex, why didn't they do it to all your accounts and just completely silence you? So it's neither here
nor there. But let's see the video. Let's see him, just a little clip of what he said concerning his account.
Dear followers, earlier today at about 3 o'clock on Monday, June 23rd, 2025, my X handle was hacked. I got an email from X stating that my email address had been changed. I tried to log on and I found out I couldn't. Now, we had premonition that this was going to happen. The people behind this are a person who had accused me falsely of sexual assault or harassment or whatever you want to call it. And they are now working with this coalition and with a failed presidential candidate. So they've been trying this, if you recall, about 2 weeks ago in Nigeria with the president during the launching or the commissioning of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, and they tried it on that day, and I did give an alert to people. Now they've been successful. We're going to get the account back. This is targeted at the interview that I had with the Honest Bunch, the podcast, because I gave a lot of revelations.
I mean, I think this is, with all due respect to Mr. Omokri, I think this is elementary, and there are bigger issues to deal with. And the people is
this
alleging...
Is a promo. This is a promo.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I have a new name for it.
Exactly.
I think it's promo. Trailer.
You know, the people he's alleging to have done this have serious issues and
serious issues to
things that are dealing with and to come down to this really pedestrian level of hacking a social media account. They're serious. I think they're very serious people. So
I
he's going by his nature. He likes to be in the news cycle. He wants to talk and stay relevant. So I don't blame him for shaking more tables and ruffling feathers. He likes the attention, and he's getting it.
Yeah, he's getting it.
I mean, he got a spot in Breakfast Central wake-up conversation.
Yeah, I mean,
that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. We have to talk about
that's
it.
Massive.
That's massive. I don't know what you're saying, Benga. Don't put dirty words in my mouth. But then again, he's gotten it. But then again, him saying, I think why the video also made wake up is the fact that Mr. Reno has gone ahead to point fingers at those he believes have taken his account down.
But he didn't mention names.
Yeah, like I said, you just need to put, you could infer, you could decode what he's trying to say. But then again, it would have been nice. No, it would have been nice if he mentioned the names.
For the sake of our viewers.
No,
as a top journalist,
it's not our job.
Infer.
No, it's not our job. It's not our job. We don't get involved in things like this.
Okay. Since he refused to say it.
We're just trying to tell him at the end of this conversation, just mention the names.
Exactly.
Come on, just mention the
names.
names.
You're brave enough to make the accusation.
Yeah, just mention the names. I mean, come on. I was expecting that he would mention the name. Just mention the names.
Exactly.
And let's, I mean,
there's no way we're going.
It reminds me of a story where they say you're walking on the road and then the tire of a car climbs your leg and then you want to tire and say, I'll beat you. Come on, just mention the names. What's going on? But in all, we think this story also made wake up with the fact that we do know how controversial Mr. Reno Omokri could be most times, especially when it comes to him picking on others. His favorite person happens to be Mr. Peter B, whom he picks on every single time.
And it's a cycle. There was a time the current president was his favorite.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And you know, one question.
Now they're so buddy.
One question. I think we should have Mr. Reno Omokri back on the show because I really need to understand. I want him to really explain that transition.
We asked him.
Yes, I know we did, but I want to ask again.
We had him. What happened? Yeah. He said, you know, he did his research, went back, and
I saw that he was
some
wrong.
Of the things, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, he didn't do his
research.
So
he might still be wrong about the things he's saying now.
Exactly, because he hasn't done his research.
Reveals, yes.
Because right now you're saying they hacked your account, you're calling on people. That means you may not have done your research, Mr. Reno Omokri. Please do your research.
No, he hasn't done his research. For him not to mention their names.
Please do your research so that in the future when they play it back to you, you don't say, oh, you know, back then I didn't do my research. Anyway, that's all we're going to take on Wake Up Conversations. Very interesting conversation, whether you like it or not, from Israel, Iran, and the United States. A ceasefire agreement put on the table, and the announcement coming from the United States particularly. And then we also looked at the conversation that's gotten everyone talking, from the NNPCL, the arrest of the managing director of the Warri Refinery, and not forgetting to the arrest of the chief financial officer, Mr. Misa as well, who has been arrested and picked up by the EFCC. We've said it shouldn't just be for the screens. It shouldn't be for the screen. It shouldn't be a smoke screen, rather, if you want to put it that way as well. It should be for the actual thing that it's meant for, which is to fight crime. 7 point... Hey, Binga.
That's a huge amount of money. But we'll do our best to follow up on the stories, to give you updates and follow up with EFCC's communications to know the latest with that situation. Like Joe said, it's a huge amount of money that is involved, and we're duty bound to inform Nigerians on this development. That's right.
We'll go straight to our top stories for today. 3 hours full stretch on Breakfast Central. If you're ready, we are. But let's show you what we're going to do today here on the show. For the next 3 hours, let's take a look at the stories. President Tinubu vows to end farmer head of crisis. Remember, as soon as he left Benue State, it started all over again. NARD issues ultimatum to federal government. Doctors are not smiling. They say they are done. Iran launches missiles at U.S. base, and then you have the update as well, where they say there's an agreement to ceasefire. Fair wage system. We'll look into this and see what productivity-based compensation really means. Plus, the newspaper front pages will be here at exactly 9 a.m. where you can be part of it. Stay with us. The program starts in a moment. Welcome back. The Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, NARD, has issued a 4-week ultimatum to the federal government over a series of unmet demands, some of which date back over a decade.
From unpaid salary arrears to the exclusion from specialist allowances, the doctors say they've had enough. And if the government doesn't act, we could be looking at another nationwide strike. At their May general meeting in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, NARD acknowledged some progress, like disbursement of the 2025 Medical Residency Training Fund, but they also expressed deep frustration over persistent issues. Now, join us this morning for this discussion is the President and National Association of Resident Doctors, the President Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Odubakun Kazim. Good morning, Dr. Kazim, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central.
Good morning. The name is actually Dr. Oshundara Thope. Dr. Kazim is my secretary.
Dr. Oshundara Thope, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Please, could you kindly give us an overview of some of the pressing issues that the authorities are yet to address that prompted this ultimatum? What are your biggest grievances?
Thank you once again, and good morning to you at the studio and to listeners all over the world. We expect a responsive healthcare system that is ready to, retain skilled health workers in Nigeria. But unfortunately, some of the concerns from NARD that would ensure that this is facilitated and done has not been implemented, and it is giving us so much concern. And to avert any imminent peril that could bedevil our healthcare system, that is why NARD, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, has cried out, and during our last meeting in New York, just like you mentioned, there is a 4-week window that was given to the Nigerian government, and especially to the parent ministry, that's the Ministry of Health, to look into these matters that concerns human resources for health, because you cannot take away the human resources for health, the material resources for health, the financial resources for health that would retain our healthcare workers in the system. And as part of these human resources for health is the career progression and career development. And there is an undertaking from the Nigerian government to fund this human resources for health through the Medical Residency Training Fund. And for 2025, we've not been able to get this Medical Residency Training Fund. And you agree with me that Nigeria at this time needs specialized care especially for those, who are suffering from one form of ailment or the other. And unfortunately, what will, improve on the skills of doctors in Nigeria has not been adequately funded by the government. Another thing is, specialist allowance. Government should also understand that adequate and commensurate compensation should be given to those who are working. Specialized care, which we are rendering, there should be a compensation for it. And unfortunately, this specialist allowance has not been paid to the Nigerian doctors under the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. We also have the issues of several areas. The 2023, 35% commerce arrears has not been paid. Accompaniment allowance has not been paid. We also have issues of local doctors scattered all over the country who are not also receiving adequate compensation and regularization of their appointment, and several other issues that we've tabled before them. And none of these things has been addressed as of now. And to avert what may be, industrial disarmament, we've been calling on them, and we are using this opportunity again to call on well-meaning Nigerians to, accede to our cry and concerns and talk to those who are in the corridor of power to ensure that these concerns are taken care of.
All right, but why is it taking so long a time? Why is it that currently, as we speak, there hasn't been any adjustment on the salaries of doctors to actually at least meet with the current pressing times that we live in? Why is it taking so long?
And what's the government's response to all your grievances and these things you mentioned earlier?
The ministry, the parent ministry, Ministry of Health, has been forthcoming with relating with us, but execution of whatsoever agreement that is on the table is with the other ministries like Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Labor, and the presidency itself. Unfortunately, nothing has been forthcoming from all these other agencies and ministries under the Nigerian government. But the Ministry of Health has been at least somewhat responsive, but they lack the capacity to execute whatsoever agreement that is on the table, because payments cannot be done by the Ministry of Health. It can only be facilitated either through the Accountant General or through the Ministry of Finance, or maybe presidency giving an express order. And I'm aware that the presidency is also in the know of some of these agitations, but we are just, taken aback, bemused as to the sluggishness or the lukewarm attitude from the other agencies of the government who are also key stakeholders in the health sector. So the response from government, so to speak, has been very lukewarm and shallow, and this is unacceptable to us. Whatsoever is causing them this delay, we cannot tell, but like if you look at the policies, from the Ministry of Health through the Honorable Coordinating Minister of Health that was released some time ago, maybe about 6-7 months ago, on health workforce migration. And you will see as part of the thematic areas that government needs to fund, human resources for health through career development, like I mentioned, and through incentives. And incentives must be adequate to retain your doctors and other skilled health workers in the system. Incentives must be commensurate, it must be adequate, it must also be competitive, so that it is out of this competition people will now begin to draw attractions to your own system of how you take care of your own health workers. So that, and unfortunately too, Nigeria happens to be one of the highest exporters of skilled health workers in the whole of Africa. We are the highest. And what has the government done to avert and to mitigate against some of these things? The response to these challenges has been suboptimal, and it is another wake-up call to the government to ensure that we retain our doctors, we retain other skilled workers in the system through better incentives and adequate welfare package for skilled health workers.
Now, Dr. Oshundari Tokwe, what happens after this 4-week ultimatum elapses? And if the government can do at least 2 or 1 out of your demands, would you still go take industrial action? What are your expectations?
Well, as of now, there is nothing on the table. It is when they bring something to the table that is when we can consider maybe some of their actions and inactions. But as I'm speaking with you now, there is absolutely nothing on the table from the government that we can even consider that, okay, this is what they are going to do within this time frame. And to avert the imminent peril of industrial disharmony or breakdown of services rendered to the Nigerian people. That is why we are using every means possible through dialogue. We've done dialogue, but like I've been told that the Nigerian government doesn't respond to dialogue, and what they want is you go all out against them, strike. And we believe that if they can give us something, maybe we can reconsider. But if within this time frame of 4 weeks, which will expire next week, Tuesday, if there is nothing on the table, I'm not too sure that we will be able to, continue to render services to the Nigerian people.
But what is the cost of going on strike now on Nigerians, especially also looking at the fact that our healthcare system is grappling with a lot of challenges in terms of doctors to patients? Should there be another strike now? What is the implication?
Well, the implication is just that the very fragile healthcare system that we have in Nigeria will thin out. And another thing that will happen is patients, for instance, you have the recent senseless killing happened in Benue, and you have a whole lot of people who are under the care of doctors and other health workers in Benue State, especially Benue State Teaching Hospital. If you withdraw services from this kind of area, people will suffer. There will be deterioration in the already very weak healthcare system, and people who are under the care of doctors and nurses will not be able to get this adequate care. So eventually, mortality, morbidity will be on the rise. And this is why we say that we don't want all of these things to happen, and government should accede to these concerns and demand. It is not our pleasure. We don't derive any pleasure in seeing Nigerians, seeing people who are in the hospital die or suffer or unattended to, and they begin to have more complications with their health. And out-of-pocket payments will also increase because you cannot compare the services that you get in a teaching hospital or any other tertiary institution owned by the government to what you are going to get in a private sector. If you go to a private sector, under this very hard economy, you still go to a private sector to seek health care. It's going to increase what you are going to pay. Out-of-pocket payment will be increased, and it will also affect universal health care coverage. In other words, doctors who are supposed to go to the very underserved environment will not be able to go there because we are going to withdraw all of them from the system when any of this happens, when we go on industrial disarmament. So these are part of the implications or consequences of down-tooling or industrial disarmament.
Now, you mentioned earlier during our conversation that your parent ministry, the Ministry of Health, it's been forthcoming. They understand the issues at hand and your demands, but they just don't have the means to execute or disperse payment, which you said the power lies with the budgeting office, the Ministry of Finance, and also the presidency. So my question is, why don't you direct your grievances to the presidency, perhaps, and to those who can expedite and make sure that your demands are ahead rather than the Ministry of Health? Go and lobby with those in the budget, finance, and of course the presidency, so they see the urgency and the importance of some of these demands. the National Association of Resident, and then even Association of Resident Doctors are making?
All right, thank you for that question. I can assure you that all of these things that you mentioned has been done. In fact, one of the reasons why we've not been able to proceed on industrial ceremony is because the Nigerian Medical Association, who is also our parents or the mother body for the association, has also waded in. So we've involved virtually all the stakeholders, prominent people in the society. We've called their attention to it so that we can mitigate against the impending peril. And we've done all of these things, met with Accountant General, several other people within the Ministry of Finance. We've seen, the top, government officials within the Ministry of Finance. They are already in the know. The only problem they have is that they lack the power to execute because probably they don't see it as priority. That's just the problem. They cannot tell us money is the problem. There are so many things they use money for, but when you are not on their priority list, so they just treat you shabbily. Then you make doctors and other health workers feel like they are cog in the system. Like they are immaterial, like they don't matter in the scheme of things. And that feeling makes you a little bit, sullen and sulky, and you now begin to look at why is this happening to us as doctors and health workers within the system who are giving their best, the optimum best to ensure that we keep body and soul of people in this country alive. So it's just unfortunate. We've mention those people in the corridor of power. Within this Nigerian system, we've met with all of them. We've had dialogue, we've lobbied, we've appealed, we've done several other things that even it's not even worthy of me to be speaking of on here. Several things we've done just to ensure that we avert whatsoever is happening. But it's like the government is turning deaf ears to our cry, and they are calling our bluff. Whatsoever you want to do, go and do it. So nobody within the populace or the public should see the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors as being, nonchalant to the healthcare needs, or maybe, not responsive to, and we lack empathy to the Nigerian people. No, that is not it. We've done our own bit, we've done our own best, but it is unfortunate that the government is not, giving us the reciprocal attention that we seek from them.
All right. My question would be, I do recall that the president had extended the retirement age for doctors from 60 to 65 years. I would like to get an overview on this one. How has it impacted the health sector? And secondly, with these demands, can you state them categorically so that we can get clarity on what your demands truly are? Maybe 1, 2, 3, or are they more than 3, and so on? So I'd like you to react to the two questions.
All right. So let me start from the rear. So the demands are, the 2025, that's 2025 Medical Residency Training Fund, which is on the table of the Minister of Finance, which is yet unattended to. Then we also have the issue of areas of 25-35% promise for health workers in Nigeria. So it's a 7-month area that has yet to be paid. Then we have issues of accoutrement allowance areas. We have issues of specialist allowance to doctors. Then we have another problem of, inappropriate regularization and compensation for local doctors. So it is casualization of health workers, which we do not agree to. We are not, comfortable with casualizing health workers in Nigeria. And it is, these are things we've tabled before government. We also have the issue of consequential adjustment of the minimum wage on our commerce salary structure. This has also been tabled before government, and nothing has been done to it. Then lastly, we have issues of the OUTH, the welfare concerns of members in Obafemi Awolowo University and Hospital Complex is not something to write home about. And we've called on Ministry of Health and other stakeholders, including the CMD of this facility, to ensure that the welfare of our members in that center and in every other center across Nigeria is well and adequately taken care of. So for the retirement age, well, I think it's just, another alternative or another means of retaining doctors and our skilled workers within the system, because we have limited number of skilled workers among doctors in Nigeria. So if we find any of these elderly doctors in their 60s and 70s who are still agile and can still work, I think it's a stopgap. It will be able to, fill in the gap for us, pending when we are going to have younger ones, coming on board to help us in the healthcare system. So I think it's a good one from the government, and I think Nigerians will benefit from the experience of elderly doctors, experience of those who have seen, who have gone to the war front, they've seen, they've conquered, they've been able to see several cases, and they can give you spot-on diagnosis on any issue. So it's a lot of work from the government, and I think likely we all will benefit from it.
All right. I want to say thank you so much, Mr. Oshundara Tope, for joining us. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tope. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope that the next time we'll speak with you, there would be a response from the federal government. Hopefully, positive response. Hopefully it will be signed, and then you can proceed, because we truly need the healthcare workers. We don't want anything happening to anyone, especially at this time. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you.
Away from that story, let's tell you that the National Productivity Center has called for a fair wage system, quite similar to what we just discussed now. But this time, we're going to the National Productivity Center, where staff in both the public and private sectors are compensated based on their productivity. Now, this was made known during an awareness walk within the capital, where they say peak levels of productivity can boost nationally, including infrastructural development. Well, let's not say much, but take a look at this package from our correspondent, Amadine, who happens to be our chief bureau in Abuja.
Staff of the National Productivity Center are taking a walk across major streets in the city center to mark the National Productivity Day. They say that while the center has led a campaign for improved productivity in both the public and private sectors, it will not relent in ensuring that citizens attain the peak level of productivity needed to achieve wide-scale development.
We will continue to advise them to really imbibe productivity culture so that our country will be able to attain that productivity level we desire.
Some during the walk also called for the establishment of a fair wage system across the country. They also emphasized on the need for citizens to imbibe productivity as a core tenet in both public and private sectors, including family life.
What we need to do as a country is some of the issues that we are beginning to tackle at the National Productivity Center. For instance, we are beginning to look at linking your wages to your levels of productivity. At the National Productivity Center, we are beginning to develop frameworks for measurement of productivity in the public sector.
We intend to create awareness to make sure that productivity becomes household name. If I do what I am doing better, you do what you are doing better, the next person does what he can do better, collectively we will achieve the most needed improvement and national development across the country.
They add that productivity can be linked to national development, thus the need for citizens in the public sector to take conversations bordering on productivity seriously. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, has called on judicial administrators to protect the integrity of the system. The Chief Justice made this call to officers serving in sensitive roles at the courts, including Chief Registrars, Secretaries of Judicial Service Commissions and Directors, during the opening of the hybrid national workshop on court administration and management. Justice Kekereekun urged them to uphold the ethical responsibilities of the job, resist compromise, and support the judges they work with.
permit me to make a passionate appeal to all participants, especially those in sensitive administrative capacities, such as the chief registrars, secretaries of judicial service commissions, and directors, uphold your ethical duties. Resist every temptation to compromise the integrity of the system. Support your duties. Ensure that post staff assigned to judicial officers are selected strictly on merit and with due regard to character, competence, and discipline. Your conduct in these areas will either strengthen or erode the public faith in our judiciary.
We have been the timing of these gatherings particularly hard as our nation continues its relentless pursuit of a more efficient, accessible, and just judicial system. In an era of rapid technological advancements and evolving societal dynamics, the efficient administration and management of our courts is paramount to the effective delivery of justice. As custodians of justice, we are constantly challenged to innovate, adapt, and refine your processes in order to uphold the integrity of our justice system.
Well, whether we like it or not, it's about time that issues concerning Nigeria's judiciary is indeed talked about, and we cannot expect anyone to speak better on it other than the Chief Justice of Nigeria, and she said it. Nothing more is expected, Benga. Nothing more than everyone carrying on their duties, because a country that is failed in its judiciary system is also doomed to fail in other
aspects. Yes, yeah. They always say the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, and it's good to see that those in charge are doing their best to ensure better efficiency and management of the entire judicial structure, so we can see cases answered in due time, because justice delayed is justice denied, as they say.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, if you just tuned in, this is Breakfast Central. Let's bring a quick recap of some of the stories we've had. So far, so good. For the first hour, as we delve into the second hour fully for more stories here on Breakfast Central. A quick recap. NARD issues ultimatum to federal government, and that happens to be one conversation we had with the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. Fair wage system, the package there, everyone calling for productivity and why everyone deserves to be paid appropriately. CJN charges judicial staff on ethics, a conversation that we will continue to have here as soon as we can. So what's coming up next here on Breakfast Central?
Now, coming up next on Breakfast Central, President Tinubu pledges to resolve farmer-headed crisis in Nigeria. Iran attacks Al-Udeid Air Base in Qatar after U.S. strikes. MPA targets 1.28 trillion for 2025, remains 400 billion in 2024. Stay with us, Breakfast Central. Continue shortly. Yesterday, Iran launched retaliatory missiles at a U.S. military base in Qatar, a move which is in retaliation for America's airstrikes on Iran's 3 key nuclear facilities over the weekend. Following intense escalations from these attacks, U.S. President Donald Trump has called for peace and announced a complete and total ceasefire agreement between Israel and Iran.
The Iranian strike, which seemed to have been a deliberate measure, saw Iran reportedly providing advance warning to both Qatar and the United States before it hit. President Trump thanked Iran for the early notice and declared that the time for peace is now. Though all Iranian missiles were intercepted and no casualties were reported, there are concerns over the effect of war on global oil prices, the ongoing 12-day war between Israel and Iran, and you could say with the United States of America right there in between. Well, joining us to discuss this, we do have global affairs analyst Collins Weke, who is taking time out to speak with us and concerning this issue. Well, thank you and welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe and Wenga, for having me.
Iran's parliament approved a measure. Let's start off with this very vital one. They approved a measure to actually close the global trade route, or route as some would love to call it, through which more than a fifth of the world's oil supply passes daily. What do you make of this? Are we about to see a global economic crisis as well when it comes to the oil and gas sector?
Well, I believe it is fair to say that the world had actually, envisaged that, Iran will take this step, that of closing the, the passage, the Strait of Hormuz. Now, yeah, of course, 20% of oil traffic globally passes through that channel, passes through that axis. And so it is definitely going to, cause energy crisis, or at least the closure will bring about, a disruption. So imagine that when the flow of oil, global oil for 20% is disrupted. I mean, everywhere in the world, the impact is going to be felt. And so, in the immediate, I mean, for the common man who doesn't quite know the left from the right of this, conflict, what it means is that, there's going to be a spike in oil prices and, fueling inflation, like they call it. I mean, quite apart from other, consequences that will result from this. But I don't think it will surprise anyone, even Israel and United States. So yes, it was to be expected that Iran will indeed, close the Strait of Hormuz.
Now, Mr. Collins Nweke, could you bring us up to speed with the latest situation? A ceasefire was announced by the United States President yesterday on a social media platform. He said both parties have agreed to a ceasefire. What do we know as at this moment that we speak? Is the ceasefire holding? And do you think this is the end of the escalation between Iran and Israel?
Well, I think, out of the abundance of caution, it is important to wait and hear a pronouncement from the Iranian side about this, ceasefire that President Trump has, announced. It will not be the first time that President Trump, makes an announcement. And then, it turns out to be that, what he has announced is completely different from what was agreed, with the parties. That's one point to be made. Number 2 point to be made is that it sounds funny that President Trump himself ordered an action that could be interpreted as escalation in this conflict, and then all of a sudden makes a U-turn and begin to talk about, ceasefire, peace, and all of that. It remains to be seen how, Iran will react to it. But to be honest with you, if indeed a ceasefire has been agreed, and if indeed a ceasefire is going to be sustained, certainly this is what the vast majority of the world actually wants. Because take Europe, for instance, a traditionally historical ally of the United States, as a matter of fact, when the U.S. tells Europe to jump, they don't ask why. They simply say, how high do you want us to jump? This is how close they have been in matters of, global consequence. But in this particular case, there are signs, very strong signs, that the United States is alone on this. There wasn't even any consultation with the European allies, and you could hear that from the pronouncements of, France. Some European countries have actually condemned the action. So yes, a ceasefire, that would be great, but let's wait a couple of, days to see if it will be confirmed, particularly by Iran, before we could believe that there is truth in it.
All right. I mean, President Trump also did mention that there's going to be a change of leadership in Iran right even before the strike. Do you have any iota of clarity on why the president is pushing for a change when it comes to the Iranians' leadership?
Well, that question, Joe, actually is linked to the response I gave you about his announcement of a ceasefire. Because while Donald Trump is actually talking of a regime change as a deliberate policy of the United States of America, his immediate deputy, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, was actually playing down the prospect of a regime change, saying that it is not an intentional policy of the United States. And then very key members of his administration in their own press conferences are saying something totally different from what Donald Trump is saying. Now, let us assume that it is a policy of the United States of America. Sorry, for want of a better word, I think it could be described as, this is, international TV, so I need to be very careful. But anyway, it is not a policy that is very well thought through. Because if anyone thinks that what is happening in Iran is just, the afterthought of an individual leader, the person is making a very, very strong mistake, because there are some very deep-rooted ideological issues that we are, dealing with here. And Iranians actually understand that. So, remove one leader and bring in another leader, the status quo is not going to change. So, I believe it's a very daft idea to pursue regime change as an intentional policy of the United States.
Especially
managing this crisis.
Especially looking at the recent history of regime change in the Arab world in the last, you look at Iraq, you look at Libya, and what it's turned to today. The United States haven't really deeply thought of the day after this regime changes, and that's why they've been coy about it. But let's talk about Europe and the so-called Western world. It often touts itself as, civilized, and that they talk about the rule-based international order. But it seems these rules are different depending on your religion or color of your skin. Because if we take a step back and go back to how all this started in the first place, the Israeli government decided to preemptively strike Iran. I mean, Iran, under Article 51 of the United Nations Charter, has a right to defend itself. So they decided to respond, and then the Americans violated Iranian sovereignty and came through. But if you look at the message coming out of Brussels and most Western capitals, everyone is not talking about how Israel is not signatory to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, how Israel is nuclear armed, how Israel started this chain reaction in the first place by attacking Tehran and murdering its military officers and scientists. So do we have a different international rule-based order, one set of rules for some people and the others? Help us make sense of this, Mr. Onweke.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Benga, for that very poignant question. Do we have, an international rule-based order? Yes, we are supposed to have one, and that is why, post-World War II, the world has, been able to avert a third world war. And let's make no mistake about, about this conflict that is happening. The fear that this might culminate in a third world war is actually far-fetched, at least for now. And the reason actually points to this question that you posed about, rule-based international order, because that is what, countries and even regions, regional blocs, for instance, the EU, that is the Bible that they read on daily basis that determine their action. And yes, it was supposed to be existing, and if everyone followed it religiously, Israel wouldn't act the way it has acted, America wouldn't act the way it has acted. But thank God, there are other parties, in this whole global arrangement that respect, to the letters, those rule-based international order. And, the EU is part of it, because what we are seeing happening, is the formation of, different alliances. So you have these axes of resistance that are aligned to Iran. You are looking at Iran itself, Syria, Hezbollah in Lebanon. You are looking at Houthis in Yemen, Iraqi Shiite militias, they are there. And then, covert support, diplomatic support coming from Russia and China. All of these are aligned to, Iran. And they do that for strategic reasons. And so ultimately, there is this fragmentation that if Europe doesn't put its foot down and begin to preach the gospel according to international rule-based order, that things will escalate. And so far, I believe the UN that is supposed to actually mastermind the implication of the international rule-based order is doing as well. Even the Atomic Energy Agency is pushing back as well. So these are the sort of things that give hope that escalation will be contained, and that ultimately this is going to be resolved, or at least contained diplomatically.
All right. I mean, we've seen these three major players in this war decide to go for a ceasefire, but the question is, for me, for everyone, what was gained, actually? Because the United States, like we rightly said at the start of this show, now positions itself as the big brother. It has been able to stand tall and say, listen, we are not just one to speak, but we are world powers as you know it. Israel, on the other hand, will be celebrating what it's done to Tehran, breaking down its muscle, as it were, while Iran, on the other hand, would also be celebrating the fact that it was able to stand tall and face the world powers, in this case, be it the United States and Israel. But what we've seen here is a case where the United States has come out very quickly to put out a press statement. And like I also rightly saw during the live television interview, the Vice President agreed and acquiesced to the fact that, yes, there's been a ceasefire. So my question to you is, looking at this holistically, what has been gained, what has been lost? And sadly, some lives have been sniffed just like that in a show of power. Who really has gained from this battle of the wits?
In war, everyone loses. Now, there is also this, saying that, you could win the war, you could win the battle and lose the war. So it is neither here nor there. And that is why, ultimately, people of conscience, people of good reasons, actually understand that the pathway to achieving every strategic interest, every strategic objective of any nation state is through diplomatic routes. Now, those who respect, such diplomatic routes and the rules around them, you see more peace, within them. So the absence of conflict doesn't mean the absence of, disagreements and all of that. It's just that it is managed, very well. Now, Iran and Israel, could be drawn into direct, sustained military, confrontation, likely fought via proxy fronts, like I mentioned. If you take the axis of Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, but interestingly, or increasingly actually, spilling into direct missiles or drone attacks, much more than we are seeing now. So ultimately, Israel is losing in this. America is losing in that as well, because like the attack that, Iran carried out in American base, America can say they have gone, unhurt as a consequence of that. And then think of the bombardment that the United States carried out. These are all, aspects of economic disruption in the United States of America, because these are very, very expensive, wars to prosecute, or at least, attacks to prosecute. So no, there are no winners, there are no losers. There are losers on all sides.
Thank you, Mr. Nweke. Now, you did mention, and rightly so, looking at the antecedents of the character and person of the United States president, that even after announcing a ceasefire, that you need to exercise caution and wait for the other parties to make their pronouncements. And rightly so. We have some piece of breaking news in the last few minutes. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to a ceasefire with Iran. I'm sure that changes the conversation now. The Prime Minister, who is wanted by the ICC, said his government has achieved the goals of removing Iranian nuclear and ballistic missiles threat. Do you think, two questions here, Mr. Nweke, do you think the U.S. attacks, the B-2 bombing using bunker buster bombs on Isfahan, Fordo and Natanz has really removed that nuclear threat? And do you think this is the end of this conflagration between Iran and Israel, or maybe they're going to restore rearm and we'll see a part two, maybe not this year, in the nearest future? And as it removed the incentive, because North Korea will be looking and saying, everybody thought we were crazy. We have the bomb, and that's why they don't attack us. That's why they don't violate our sovereignty. So as this attacks by the United States and Iran remove the impetus, or the impetus for Iran to further enrich and maybe seek a nuclear bomb to act as a deterrent against this sort of attacks?
I will start with the last question, and this straightforward answer to that is no. If anything, I believe that it has emboldened Iranians even more, particularly those on the radical wing of the current regime, and also people around the Ayatollah, because like you refer to, the North Korea is an example of a country that holds its head high and say, well, they are not coming to us because they know what we are capable of doing. Now, let us take the worst case scenario, that the bunker, busting, bomb that was used, has created, permanent destruction of, the nuclear program. Well, let us not forget that the knowledge and the skills to develop these capacities rest with individuals. Yes.
Yeah, but Israel has assassinated a number of those scientists, of those top Iranian scientists. Yes.
Absolutely, they did. And of course, it is because they realized the question that you have asked, whether, it's part of a whole strategy to actually, destroy, the program completely. But I think it's short-sighted. It's short-sighted because it is absolutely impossible to kill all the people that have the capacity to, rearm themselves in terms of, further development. Some of them are not even in Iran. You see, so it will achieve a short-term, objective, and that short-term objective is, delaying the accelerated speed if they are actually, developing a weapon of mass destruction, because nobody knows that. And then the other question you asked in terms of whether the attack by the United States of America has actually gotten to the core of, the enrichment program. Nobody knows that. Even the Atomic Agency, body has told us that, an assessment has not been concluded. And yes, from what they have seen from aerial, satellite images and all of that, yes, significant damage has been done, but the extent to which it has actually touched the core of it, or whether it was still deposited in that particular site, is something that they do not, have a clue about. More, they need to dig in more to be able to ascertain that. Now, Israel, on the other hand, confirming that there is a ceasefire. I mean, why would that be breaking news? It can be breaking news because, Israel and the United States of America are joined in the hips. So there is no announcement that the United States of America makes that Israel isn't aware of before it was made, and how all of these are choreographed. So it is expected that, the Netanyahu will come out to support, reinforce the statement that Israel has made. That the United States has made. So let us wait a bit further and, hear what Iran has said. But I keep hope alive that indeed a ceasefire has been agreed.
It's going to be a whole lot to discuss, especially in the coming few hours. But let's get to see what the response would be like. If Israel has spoken not quite long, let's wait for the Iranians to also speak. And then let's also see what the United Nations will say. But then again, these conversations are one that we would love to have continually. But hey, our time here is up. Thank you so much, Mr. Weke, for joining us. And as usual, always giving us very interesting aspects to these international stories.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you always. Thank you for having me.
Well, away from that story, let's come back to Nigeria and tell you that the Nigerian Ports Authority says that it is targeting over 1.2 trillion naira in projected revenue for the 2025 fiscal year, a significant leap from its 2024 forecast. The managing director of the agency, Abubakar Danso, made this known during separate budget defense sessions before the Senate and House of Representatives committees on marine transport. Danso says that the NPA remitted 400 billion naira to the Consolidated Revenue Fund in 2024. Now that's nearly twice what it returned in 2023. Anyway, News Central's National Assembly correspondent brings the details.
Speaking at separate budget defense sessions at both Senate and House committees on marine transport, Managing Director Abubakar Danso says the agency is projecting a 40% increase from its 2024 target of 865 billion naira, a bold expectation from ongoing strategic reforms.
The details of the revenue sources are as written below. So on the cargo side, we are expecting we'll raise or realize 413 billion. On the ship side, we're hoping to realize 544 billion. On the concession side, we're hoping to realize 249 billion. On admin revenue, we're hoping to realize 73 billion.
Following projections made by the NPA, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Marine Transport re-emphasized the need to focus on boosting infrastructure and creating jobs to boost economic growth.
We expect clear strategies on how NPA intends to enhance its revenue generation capacity, reduce leakages, and modernize port operations through digitalization, improve security, and infrastructural upgrade. The expectations are even higher, considering the federal government drive to increase non-oil revenue and reduce dependence on borrowing. We are committed to work with NPA and all relevant stakeholders to ensure that the maritime sector contributes meaningfully to national development and economic growth.
Although lawmakers commended the NPA for its performance, they say there is a need for all agencies to ramp up revenue generation and support government in cutting down current budget deficits and borrowing. In Abuja for News Central, Sakir Ibrahim.
Very interesting times ahead. I mean, looking at the revenue projections and what to expect. Although sometimes Binga would also ask if it's a revenue generating arm of government.
Yeah, I mean, you excise fiscal excise and duties. The Nigerian Ports Authority people pay duties on imports and exports. So, but the question is, it's almost the custom declares record revenue. The Nigerian Ports Authority, what are they used for? Because are they just going into recurrent expenditure for paying salaries? How much of it do we use for capital projects? The resident doctors are asking for XYZ. So many other associations want this and that. So are these monies channeled towards proper use rather than payment of salaries and bonuses for elected officials?
I think you've highlighted it all. You know, sometimes you look at it, you wonder, it seems like there's so much money in the system that one cannot but help ask what they're being used for. Just last year, during the review of the fiscal year, the monies that were gotten from some of the agencies, and remember too that there were monies that were gotten that were declared to be monies gotten from repatriated back into the country, to the economy. Isn't it rife that these monies are therefore explained or mentioned to the public, general public, that this is what these funds will be used for, and then they are followed through, and then we get to see what they're used for?
Some of them just go back to the Federation accountant. The Federal Ministry of Finance will decide on how to disperse. But it would be nice if there's more accountability. And you could say, okay, this money we recovered from X and Y, Z individuals, from the excess money that was declared would be channeled towards X and Y projects. So you carry the people along and they see some level of transparency with it.
You know, one thing that's being done, whether we like it or not, I was just thinking about this. You do have the FCT minister in his commissioning of projects. Sometimes it's mentioned that this amount was spent.
Yes.
Nigerians often are irked with the fact that how could you spend so much money?
Such a huge amount of money.
But let's also look at it for clarity's sake. Whether people would talk or would not talk, or whether they feel that there's some form of, in quotes, covering,
or whether it's a misplaced
priority, whether it is not administered the way Nigerians want it to be, whichever way. But the fact that, okay, this is what we are doing, this is what my ministry is doing, these are the things we're doing. What it does is, in as much as maybe in the future, one would want to say, okay, let's probe. Then you can also track back and say, okay, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E, F was done.
But at least it's showing workings, yeah.
Just putting it out there, maybe. Maybe that's the reason why we have so many ministers under the portfolio doing all they can to show working too. But we hope that the working would actually bring relief and succor to some Nigerians. Well, President Tinubu has pledged to resolve the decades-long farmers-herders conflict. The president made this pledge during the commissioning of a 15-kilometer road in Kwale area of the FCT. There you go, one of the things we're talking about. Well, promising inclusive development and support for grazing infrastructure. 11 states appear to be embracing the federal government's ranching plans, even as killings continue to surge in parts of the country.
While some states have allocated lands for ranching, many others have pledged lands, and a few are developing policies that will guide the initiative as a viable business venture. The president had in his visit to Benue said that the government will convert what used to be a liability and a source of conflict into a means of prosperity. As ranching the silver bullet that would end this crisis. Join us for this discussion as the Director General of Nigeria Young Farmers Network, Mr. Promise Amaha. Good morning to you, Mr. Amaha, and thanks for joining us on Breakfast Central this morning.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks for having me. I hope my audio is clear enough.
Fantastic.
Absolutely.
We can hear you loud and clear. Now, Mr. Amaha, just give us a general overview of what you make of the president's speech when he talked about ranching, that, you know, what used to be a source of conflict would be a source of prosperity. How viable is this ambitious project, and do you think it would get the adoption and buy-in of some of this herders?
Okay, thank you for that question. By the way, the president is absolutely correct that the ranching alternative is the way to go, and not only to reduce the farmer herder crisis, but also to optimize the economic opportunities that comes with proper management of livestock in Nigeria. With a growing population of over 200 million people, there is no other more realistic way to improve our livestock and then also address the issue of the herder-farmer conflict than to go ranching. But that said, you know, you must also understand what the real problems are from the field, from you know, the critical stakeholders among the farmers and the herders. And the real issues that no one talks enough about is the lack of public trust and confidence. You know, let me take you a while back, you know, when it started coming to the front burner on this herder crisis. You remember the Ruga settlement issue. And from the Ruga settlement issue, there was massive opposition towards the intent and intentions of the government at the time on Ruga, and it suffered a heavy setback. From Ruga, we went to a more modified approach to Ruga, which was now called the NLTF, the Nigerian Livestock Transmission Plan, NLCP, as a matter of fact. So we must understand the journey towards this government's promotion and adoption and investment on ranching. And so we can be able to understand where the president is going to with this recent conversation about ranching. So it's nothing new. The only thing that needs to change is the approach and the strategy. And that's where stakeholders like myself are concerned, because in Nigeria, both farmers and herders have huge deficit of trust in government, you know, confidence in government. Even the stakeholders themselves also have that deficit. So how do you, first of all, bridge that gap of trust and deficit? How do you address those critical issues and you know, align stakeholders to understand that this is well-intentioned, right? This is well-intentioned, and the approach is a lot more different from the regular approach of an opportunity for land grabbing as it is, an opportunity for displacing people from their ancestral lands and other attendant issues. So it's an exciting time to hear the president talk about ranching, but we must not make the same mistakes we made previously in trying to orchestrate the Ruga and the NLTP. Now we have a substantive Ministry for Livestock Development. You know, it's an exciting and a better opportunity to start to align the expectations of stakeholders towards productive engagements. How do we engage them differently? How do we build this trust to let the herders and the farmers understand that this is a win-win situation for everybody? This is going to help you improve your productivity while ranching. This is going to also help you also, you know, there's a mutually beneficial nexus between the farmers and the herders. So those are the areas of concern that I think, beyond the fact that it's a good idea to go back to the ranching conversation, but to change the strategy and consider massive public enlightenment of stakeholders, and maybe also reduce the tone around the ranching, try to make it a little more ordinary, so that they understand the whole concept of ranching, that it's not such a big word bandied around by government that has mischievous intentions, but basically trying to create an ecosystem for proper livestock management that will enhance mutually beneficial to all stakeholders. Again, before I drop my final points, I want to also state that the approach of having this conversation being dominated by government is a bit troubling, right? And because over time we've had the challenge of improper private sector, inclusion and engagement to drive this agenda. Ranching in itself, done all over the world, is not generally done by government, it's done by private sector, right? We have a huge deficit of the milk we consume. We import milk into this country. We still import meat into this country. The most popular food, protein we eat, whether it's protein or something that we call pomo in local parlance, is imported from far away in Mali and passes through the Niger Republic and gets into Nigeria. So, this is also going to block the gaps. These opportunities are going to block the gaps in our livestock value chain, right? And enhance productivity. But we must change the approach. We must change the dynamics towards this engagement, towards land acquisition for ranching. We must also try to consider the imperative of engaging young people. We have 60% of this population under the age of 35, and they have growing youth appetite towards agriculture and agribusiness. And ranching is one of those things that even a 16-year-old owns a ranch in Brazil. So young people need to see the opportunity and also now, engage properly with government to make it. What about micro ranching? We also have those large-scale ranches. We can start with micro ranching. We can do pilot programs and proof of concept to demonstrate between farmer and header that this is what it looks like to have a proper ranch, and this is how you can benefit them. And then from there, raise their confidence and trust in the system, before now scaling up and going into statewide engagements and massive development on ranching. Because if you don't do these things, you end up having same issues. It's doing the same thing over and over again and also getting same results. So I hope to see that this forward-thinking president, has his work cut out for him with a brilliant minister for livestock and the permanent secretary who have had the privilege of meeting under the Presidential Livestock Initiative program, to change the narrative and consider massive, strategic stakeholder engagement, public enlightenment, education of these farmers and the herders as to what ranching actually means and how they benefit from it.
Okay.
Secondly, and most importantly, the alignment of private sector. The alignment of private sector to this conversation is what's going to move. If you don't match these things to private sector needs, then what are you doing? What are you doing? That's where the economy lies, in the private sector. So how much in the private sector is involved in this conversation? We also like to see how that also plays out.
I mean, you've spoken well. We've looked at it from different aspects. In 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari had to suspend Ruga because it wasn't indeed meeting its target. Remember, during the National Executive, National Economic meeting, where governors sat down, I do recall then Governor Dave Umahi had said that it's not working then, especially in Ebonyi State. And now we've seen it deepen, especially affecting the food basket of the nation, which is Benue. We've also seen Plateau equally being affected. So, in other words, food security is starting to look very dicey. And experts have also said that should it affect food in the country like Nigeria, then we are really heading for deep troubles. But let me get this from you. When Ruga was suspended in 2019, a 10-year plan was put in place through the NLTP. It was expected that the NLTP would replace, and then, for 10 years, Nigeria would have gotten out of the doldrums, out of these issues that we're facing today again. So we've seen how long it's taken. Can you shed more light why these supposed ideas gathered by the government, the federal government, haven't sat down with state governors, the subnationals, is not working? Can you shed more light why it is not working? And can you also shed more light on what you think about the fact that the president happens to be the chairman of the Ministry of Livestock, and his assistant is the former INEC boss, Tahiru Jega. Could you shed more light on the possibility of that ministry taking off and working when these others did not work?
So my response might be a bit unconventional because I'd like to speak my truth.
Please go ahead, feel free.
An active player in this whole space. In my interactions from Ruga till now, I see the major need for even the government stakeholders and the public stakeholders to go through more strategic capacity building. And when I'm talking about capacity building, I mean, it's unconventional because I think the private sector who have the demonstrable experience in these processes need to actually be part of educating the public sector about what is needed to get this right. And this is, like I said, is an unconventional opinion. And as a result of my engagements, looking at, interactions with these stakeholders, because, that explains why Ruga failed. That explains why we have several policy somersaults and we have 10-year plans and all of that. You've said it all. Why didn't Ruga work? Why didn't the NLTP actually take off? And if care is not taken, if we don't block these gaps and address these capacity deficits among critical stakeholders like the public sector and the government party, then we'll still be headed for the same issues we had and unproductivity we suffered in the build-up to the other ones. Like I said, some of the things I mentioned in this conversation are not things basically they might have been looking at. It's possible they're looking at it, but they need to move real fast in building that public trust and confidence. It's across board, across Nigerian public sector is a major challenge. People who you intend to serve, who intend to have these policies and long-term plans and short-term plans serve, need to see that it's for their own benefit. They need to get involved in demonstrations, practical proof of concepts in small scale to be able to build their trust and confidence, to be able to cooperate. It's not enough to build all these, create all these policies and create all these roadmaps and long-term plans. Why, at the end of the day, you need to implement them. Implementing strategies is where the rubber hits the road. And when you're implementing them and the critical stakeholders are supposed to cooperate in the implementation, first of all, do not trust your intentions. They do not trust your intentions. So how on earth is your intentions going to succeed or your implementation plan going to succeed? So we need to take a step back and have a proper conversation, private sector to public sector, to unbundle the real issue around implementation and sustainability around these issues. How do we fix that gap of public trust and confidence around the farmers and the headers across board? And I'm speaking as someone who has been in the agricultural sector for almost 20 years now, over almost 2 decades now. And I know that the reason why most of the policies and laws across and investments never work is this breach of public trust and confidence, right? So my recommendation and what I think is that we have sufficient plans, we have sufficient goal strategies, policies. Let's now take a step back and create an alignment. And in creating an alignment, we need to really accentuate an ecosystem that brings together the private sector and the public sector so that we can co-develop, we can co-create. Do you understand? You just don't create as public sector and expect it to work fully with the private sector. What is the private sector alignment on these issues? It's not enough to call private sector into a room and share, brilliant and laudable goals and objectives, that are borrowed from developed countries like Brazil and all of that. Most of these countries are driven by private sector. The livestock sector is driven by private sector. So I think that, and I'm glad that we have a president who's now boots on ground and seeing the gaps in most of these issues. But if we are to get it right, we must engage private sector. Now, let me not also miss the point of the young people getting involved. Basically something I've championed for the past 10 years of my life.
So that brings me to my question, Promise. You've rightly highlighted what we got wrong with the Ruga system and what we need to do to reap from the entire value chain of ranching. You've also said the government should not be working in silos. There should be more collaboration between the private sector and, of course, the government. My question to you is this: how soon because we have, like my colleague highlighted, there's serious food security implications in the food basket of the nation because of this conflict. And you also said that we're still importing meat from different parts of the world. So there's still a lot of untapped potential here. Two questions. How do you get young people interested in farming and ranching? How can you talked about micro ranching. And my second question is how soon, because Joe talked about a 10-year plan earlier, how soon, how realistic can we begin to see the rubber on the asphalt? How soon can we move towards implementing this? Because, I mean, on paper, everything looks brilliant. Like you said, the key is in implementation.
Yeah, so, well, if you ask how soon, I'll say as soon as yesterday, really, literally, as soon as yesterday. The young people in Nigeria, I'd like for you to also maybe also share the selfie I took with the cattle, some headers, on my Nigerian Young Farmers Network apparel, and you could see how many views that got on social media. And when we're talking about strategic communication and public enlightenment, that's what needs to be done more. How do we make these things more attractive to young people? And that's why I said yesterday, if we start now, in the next 12 months, we'll see a different livestock landscape in Nigeria. Because, it's becoming, we're living in an age that is driven, with fast-paced technology, and young Nigerians are, on the driving seat of this technology, but not engaging in the real sectors where we need to address issues of food insecurity. Yeah, right there you can see that's me with, some heads of cattle, in the farm far away, Nasarawa State, Kiana precisely, when I went to interact with the stakeholders on young people who are into livestock and cattle rearing. But that's by the way. So back to my point. My point is that if we start now, we'll have a better chance. We'll have a brand new ministry for livestock that is doing so much to ensure that we get it right with their strategies, the NGAS, the several other new policies they put together. Meanwhile, the question you asked me before now, the former INEC chairman did a great job in helping put together the strategy and the work plan and the policy for the new livestock ministry. Beyond the point. So I don't want to get political about these things. If people have capacity that they can bring to bear, regardless of their previous designation or even their present designation, we should be unbiased and open-minded around engaging them to get the results. So it has nothing to do with if being a former INEC chairman and then being the chairman of the Presidential Livestock Reform and all of that. No, it has everything to do with capacity. Does he have the requisite background knowledge to be able to put the livestock plan or strategy in place? If he does, then even if he is the former opposition presidential aspirant, he should be brought on board to share his experience. It is a Nigerian problem. It's not a political problem. It's a Nigerian problem, right? And it's food security, which is what connects all of us. And we're in dire straits, for goodness sake. We're in dire straits. So back to my young farmers advocacy. Yes, if we have a 12-month plan to raise a new breed of young livestock farmers across the country and educate them and excite them with the opportunities in modern livestock and ranching value chain, in the next 12 months, you would see a different livestock and conversation in Nigeria, which starts to implement the conversation and the policies and all that government has put together, the brilliant paperwork that Professor Jega and his team had all put together. We need that alignment now. The young people love the selfie of seeing me get into the places that they already believe are death traps and taking a selfie with cattle. Calm, cool, amazing and sexy if you like. Most of these optics need to go out more to mobilize. I'm driving an agenda called Rebranding Agriculture in Nigeria. And the way to go about it is through strategic communication, which I'm also inviting the media to be part of, because the hunger spares no one, including you guys, right? So we have to rebrand the livestock sector in Nigeria, have young people to drive it. let me tell you something. If you go online on TikTok, for example, you see a lot of young Fulani herders on TikTok, showing off their large heads of cattle, showing off everything that they're doing, within the livestock value chain or the cattle value chain. It's a meal.
All right. Well, I'm sure we can go on and on and on with this conversation, but I think we've gotten the key pointers here, especially with someone who's got 20 years, 2 decades of experience in agriculture, and you could say that, your thoughts are indeed very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing these thoughts with us here on Breakfast Central. Thank you for your time as well.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful. Thank you very much.
Very interesting conversation that we've had this second hour. The third hour comes up next, but we do have what's still to come here on Breakfast Central on News Central Television.
Hello, welcome to Breakfast Headlines. I am Benga Aborowa. We begin with electoral matters, where the Inspector General of Police, Kade Egbetokun, has dismissed claims that security agencies are involved in rigging elections in Nigeria, calling such accusations both baseless and unfair. Speaking through the Commissioner of Police for the Federal Capital Territory, Adewale Ajao, at the Third National Democracy Stakeholders Summit held in Abuja, the police chief reaffirmed the neutrality of the force during electoral exercises. According to Egbetokun, the police have no hand in vote counting or electoral outcomes. His comments come as political tensions remain high following the 2023 general elections, during which both the ruling All Progressive Congress and the opposition parties traded accusations of widespread irregularities and collusion among election stakeholders. Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party has declared that INEC lacks the constitutional power to regulate its meetings, insisting it will proceed with the National Executive Committee meeting scheduled for June the 30th. This was made known by the party's National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba. According to Ologunagba, the People's Democratic Party had duly notified INEC of the upcoming NEC meeting in line with established practice, even though such meetings fall outside the categories of political events that legally require INEC's involvement. He explained that under Nigeria's laws and the PDP's constitution, INEC is only required to be notified of conventions, congresses, or primaries involving the election of party officers or candidates. In a fresh bid to amend the country's constitution, the Senate is planning to consider 31 proposals for state creation. Deputy President of the Senate and Chairman of the Committee on the Review of the 1999 Constitution, Barau Jibrin, said the proposals will be reviewed during the 2-day zonal public hearing scheduled for July the 4th and 5th, 2025. The hearings will take place simultaneously in Lagos, Enugu, Ikot-Ekpene, Jos, Maiduguri, and Kano. The Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the Deputy Senate President, Ismail Mudashir, said the committee received 5 state creation requests from the Southwest, South-South, and North-Central zones, 7 from the Northeast, 6 from the Northwest, and 3 from the Southeast. The Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, has called on judicial administrators to protect the integrity of the system. The Chief Justice made this call to officers serving in sensitive roles at the courts, including Chief Registrars, Secretaries of Judicial Service Commissions, and Directors during the opening of the Hybrid National Workshop on Court Administration and Management. Kekereekun urged them to uphold the ethical responsibilities of the job, resist compromise, and support the judges they work with.
Before I conclude, permit me to make a passionate appeal to all participants, especially those in sensitive administrative capacities, such as the Chief Registrars, Secretaries of Judicial Service Commissions, and Directors. Uphold your ethical duties. Resist every temptation to compromise the integrity of the system. Support your judges. Ensure that cost staff strictly omit and with due regard to character, competence, and discipline. Your conduct in these areas will either strengthen or erode the public faith in our judiciary.
You will agree with me that the timing of these gatherings particularly hurts as our nation continues its relentless pursuit of a more efficient, accessible, and just judicial system. In an era of rapid technological advancement and evolving societal dynamics, the efficient administration and management of our courts is paramount to the effective delivery of justice. As custodians of justice, we are accustomed to challenge to innovate, adapt, and refine your processes in order to uphold the integrity of our justice system.
Now to security matters. In response to escalating violence in north-central Nigeria, 11 states, including Lagos, Plateau, and Ondo, are set to launch run-chin initiatives aimed at curbing deadly clashes between farmers and herders. This proactive move follows a recent massacre in Yelwata, Benue State, where over 200 people lost their lives in attacks attributed to armed herders. The surge in violence has been linked to the disputes over land ownership. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, addressing the crisis, called on state governors to prioritize reconciliation and sustainable solutions. The adoption of ranching is seen as a crucial step towards fostering peace and preventing further bloodshed in affected communities. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Breakfast Central continues shortly. I am Benga Aboroa.
Welcome back to Breakfast Central. Let's go straight into the front pages of the newspapers. Very interesting stories, but we do have our guest who joins us live in the studio to analyze the big stories on the front pages. And you too can be part of the front pages by calling the phone number that you'd find shortly on the screen and go ahead and dial. And we'd like to hear your thoughts and also your shared analysis. Public Affairs Analyst Theophilus Akatuba joins us here live in the studio on a very interesting Tuesday morning. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Akatuba.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us.
Great men. Good morning
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, I mean, they say great men think alike. So,
Yes.
I mean, we're happy to be thinking alike. But let's find out what our likeness is when it comes to the different stories we have on the front page. Our very first paper we'll be going to happens to be the Daily Independent. That's the first paper. And this morning, it is loaded with so many stories. Farmers' seafood prices crashing over removal of roadblocks. To boost mechanized farming, Tinubu unveils 2,000 tractors. Vows to make farming attractive. Remember what he said? Farming, agriculture will be made to look sexy.
Yes, sexy.
Yes, he used that word, said sexy agriculture. People started saying they wonder if Agbado will wear
sexy apparel.
Sexy Agbado.
I mean, and a lot of the political parties, some are adopting the Agbado as their symbol.
Exactly.
Especially the latest one coming
Ada.
from Ada.
Adako. Anyway, pledges to turn rural communities into prosperity hubs. Let's move on with more stories on the front page of Daily Independent. Don't compromise integrity of judiciary. CJN warns court administrators. Reps direct customs to halt 7% cease levy collection. Nigeria archives 40% revenue growth, hits 6.9 trillion naira milestone in Q1 2025. So Q1 report is in. It says that Nigeria, is it archives? I wanted to say achieves 40% revenue growth. Yeah, it achieves.
That's
40%.
A huge amount.
Yeah, 40% revenue growth, hit 6.9 trillion naira milestone in Q1. Shatima harps on informal sector business integration into AFTA. Iran says it retaliated against US, but let's just narrow it down. Let's go straight to the stories. Let's cut the chase. The very first story I'd like us to pick is 2027 elections, the one at the bottom there. Opportunity to create opposition against APC messed up, Baba Ahmed says. Baba Ahmed has spoken. He was there and he agreed to work with the current administration before he decided to say, you know what, I'm done. I'm no longer working with the current administration. Cited his reasons. And then 6 months, he said, I remember quite vividly that after 6 months, the North will decide who they will support ahead of 2027. But now he's saying opportunity to create opposition in terms of the coalition we're saying they messed it up. I mean, what's your take?
I think there's still time. Can he conclude now that they messed it up?
There's a reason why it's completed, but let's ask the experts.
Well, you know, from his point of view, I don't know what informed his opinion regarding the fact that when he said he messed it up means he has seen something that is critically wrong in what they are putting together. El-Rufai was on TV yesterday, and he was very, boisterous. And so if you, from that point, you would think you will not be able to, you will not accept Baba Ahmed's position. And so maybe there's something he knows that El-Rufai knows better than him, because he doesn't believe it's been messed up. He still believes that they have the capacity to come together and kick out the president. That's what El-Rufai believes. But you see, from my own observation, I tend to agree with Baba Ahmed, but because what they are doing, they have not been able to attract the right attention to themselves. And they, yes, they don't have the quality of unity that is required to be able to upstage a party as well consolidated like the APC as at now. We're not saying they can't improve. The chances are always there. Things can turn around for them. But for now, APC look too formidable for the kind of thing they are putting together, because the application for the registration of that party is at best a common thing that anyone can do. What is more important is to bring to Nigeria what is the alternative to what Tinubu is doing. They are not saying anything to Nigeria.
But they're highlighting the things that are wrong with this government.
Like
the interview yesterday, Mr. El-Rufai said, Malam Nasser El-Rufai said, the economy had tanked.
It's the easiest thing to do.
And it's very interesting to note that this was the same man who the president delegated questions to in Chatham House.
Absolutely.
To answer. So what could have gone wrong?
Yeah.
Is it a wrong choice of judgment from his part? Because he was part of those that were selling this government to Nigerians. And in 2 years,
No. He's very...
El-Rufai
fell out with the government. He was supposed to be part of this government, one way or the other. He was edged out. We don't know why. Up till now, they didn't tell us exactly why. He was a shining boy, a star, someone we thought was going to be confirmed first.
Speaking facts, or there's some level of vindictiveness in his statement?
It's vindictiveness. I don't see El-Rufai speaking fact, because even his own son criticized him. Somebody is from his own family said if he were to be in part of the government, he will not hold the view that he currently holds. He has controlled that to a great extent. What I'm saying is El-Rufai is a man that I admire a lot. It's one very, I really admire from the time he was minister of the FCT. But currently, he's falling out of the political, opportunity that he has had. So he is fighting to make a comeback. We must give him the chance to do it at best. But his association with Atiku, if Atiku comes up as other presidential candidate, it means he's dead on arrival. And this could be what this man has seen. I think a Rotimi Amechi could give them a better chance, because the sentiment of the country is that the presidency should remain in the south. That is the current sentiment, including the political elites in the north.
I asked the question yesterday. One of the papers yesterday had put a statement there and said the challenges. It called them the challenges, and I said it kind of like reminded us of what we see in sports or a video game, better still, and then put up their pictures. So if you look at the faces, the names of the people, you have Peter Obi, you have Rotimi Amechi, you have, of course, Nasser El-Rufai, you have Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, you keep naming them. Who eventually is just going to be the front man of this coalition? Because it seems like they're way too much. So I get the point that too much...
Recycling the same politicians
so who's going to be the new face?
Well, Peter Obi has already said he's not part of it.
Yes.
And so that means he's not likely to be the candidate of this new party. Now, Peter Obi has not also announced his own party.
Yes, we hear there's another coalition coming.
Yes, I think the man is seeing a movement towards shoring up Atiku. And that's why he's saying that they messed it up. He knows that Atiku is not going to form a coalition with you to play second fiddle.
What if he decides? I mean, I'm just going to record what someone said. That what if he decides to be a godfather from behind the scenes?
If he or should he?
Good question.
I don't know about the answer to that.
I mean, you can answer it both ways.
No, you see, Atiku is enjoying himself. He knows that it's a tough game. He knows that President Tinubu is not a pushover, not someone who was already, you know, Tinubu is a politician.
Politics,
yes, Atiku has a lot of people who believe that he has. I'm not very close to him, but from my observation, I'm not a fan of Atiku. But I'm somebody who is quite sympathetic to Tinubu because of my study of his innovative ways to respond to his challenges and the way he fights. I find him deceptive in his appearing, and I find that a strength. And he has shown, even in the election. So now that he's in the seat of power, he's playing classical politics. You can see how the opposition voice drowns every day. You can see the way they come up with an idea, they think that will fly, and it soon dies before evening. And they look for another, you know, another proposition.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is the game. And so you see how governors of other parties are falling over him, and you hardly find criticism. Peter Obi said the economy is bad, and that the subsidy removal was done badly.
Even in states where he didn't do so well during the elections, the southeastern states.
Yes, and they are changing. What did Oti say? Oti contradicted Peter immediately with his own response, saying that the removal was done and done well. So we need to, that's why I'm saying that Peter Obi and Atiku, they need to have their squad behind them. Peter Obi cannot say this is done badly, and he's only governor of his own party saying it was
and then a former,
he's not forming the opinion
former governor who is in the National Assembly is now telling the governor of a northern state in the PDP to quickly align with the president so that he can enjoy the benefits. You know, and there's this thing about the aligning with the center.
Sort of personality politics. I mean, in the past, okay,
it happened. Yeah.
They rallied behind the party, PDP.
Yeah, but not
when we see but not there almost seems to be a cult of personality around,
which has raised the word.
You know, because the president has an irresistible persona, meaning he's able to dine and wine with even those he dislikes.
I mean, look at what happened in Lagos during the Salah festivities. People were even expected. The only person that didn't visit was Peter Obi and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar to pay him a courtesy visit, because you saw it has a way of. You saw Mr. Segun Shomi was there. Fire
who, by the way, will be reporting soon.
Yeah.
Who, by the way, will be reporting soon.
Exactly.
So let's state it here clearly. So it won't be news.
You know, one thing is that what I like about this is that we never had a thoroughbred, very astute politician in the seat of power. We had them sponsored by the politicians behind the scene. Now you have the politicians.
Is it beneficial for democracy, as it were? Well, because there's a key word that has come up, which is
what I like about it. What I like about it is that, you know, democracy is such that it's tested to the hills and it survives. What we are seeing is the dynamism of democracy. Now choices people are now beginning to show that they will make some funny choices.
It's not done at gunpoint, because when the 5 political parties adopted Abacha as their sole candidate, you would know that they were forced. But this is, people are voluntarily pledging allegiance and singing these phrases.
It's never too late, whatever it is.
If you are a governor, one of the most important things you need is the flow of resources from federal government to enable you perform.
Yeah, but constitutionally, the president cannot hold on to it.
But all presidents have not held back this money, but they've not generated enough. You know the meaning of generate?
I understand.
You just read
revenue
that is going to 40%.
The governors
are seeing this flow without, it's not about borrowing. They are seeing it from the engineering of the economy, and they are seeing the flow, and their lives have improved as governors.
Even though they've refused to improve it for the
No, we will get there. Let's see. They are now moving because they've never had it so good. That is their look at the ability to pay off debt and not borrow. It's so refreshing for a leader. You can't head any organization if you don't have
at the end of it, politically speaking now, because when it comes to the crux of the matter, elections, Okay, we have a governor that has endorsed Mr. President, but how much of it would it translate to votes? Because the governor is...
I mean, governor of Edo State just promised the president yesterday 2 points. Is it governor of Edo State just to the president I'm going to give you 2.6 million votes? You see,
he's making statements. Does he have those numbers?
Yes.
Has those kind of numbers ever turned out? So what I'm saying is this. The politics of Nigeria, make no mistake, is according to the man that holds the treasury. If you go around the political structures, what they call structures, it's a structure of, putting the resources in the hands of these foot soldiers to mobilize the
resource control.
So is it really a democracy or an auction?
Or is resource control?
Nigerian democracy is growing, and I am saying that we are still at the very infancy of it. First, you can't have a democracy that is of unique and powerful choices if the citizens are ill-educated, uneducated, and poor.
But what's happening
Those are dangerous for democracy.
And is that not what we're going through now?
You need to improve.
I mean, the critical mass of Nigerian electorates, with all due respect, fall under this category.
That's it. So they will be guarded to go and vote and be given something.
The
average Nigerian actually...
So let's mention it.
They actually see election...
They're giving bread.
Yes. He see election as an opportunity to make it. So when the women gather there, let's go and vote. They know we are coming home with 5,000 or 3,000.
And George, rapper.
And so they go for the...
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years.
But let's look at the Guardian newspaper. Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. There are very interesting headlines here. Flawed process, false disclosure rocks universities' accreditation, says the National Universities Commission, NUC. Reactions trail demolition of our church massacre victims' cenotaph. The excuse from the governor is that the Olowo of Owo says traditionally you shouldn't have such monuments that are negative facing the palace, but we can always talk about that later. African leaders, activists hinge political apathy on bad leadership. EFCC arrest, another spectacular media announcement by the EFCC. EFCC arrests ex-NNPC chiefs over alleged $7.2 billion fraud. Huge news. They talked about turnaround maintenance of the refineries, and the refineries aren't producing anything. We'll get to that. Abuja safe, no cause for alarm. FG assures amidst U.S. travel warning. So Nigeria is an independent state. We have agency, and the United States of America has come out to issue a travel warning for citizens in Abuja to be careful that they sense something might be wrong. And then the federal government is countering this, saying, Abuja is safe. So mixed bags here. Who do you trust, the United States government or the host government itself? Insecurity, Tinubu urged to investigate alleged complicity of security chiefs. And PDP chief dismisses other coalition as a weak, that's Bode George, as weak attempt to oust Tinubu. And also casualties from Plateau killings rise to 22. Really, really sad development there. But let's start with EFCC arrest ex-NNPC chiefs over alleged $7.2 billion fraud. Are you excited about?
Let's take this call before we take his. We have Elder David calling us. Good morning.
I've done so.
Good morning.
Good morning, Adadi from Alimosho.
Please go ahead with your contribution.
Thank you, the gentleman there. God will bless you. Those that are forming that at that party, you have to look at their records. Yes. As with due respect, as for Atiku, they know very well that he's only doing it not to win any election. It's not for the purpose of getting a record from Guinness Book of Records as the only man who has contested election all over the world in different parties, more than 20 or 30. Maybe it's not in Dubai. What record does he have? When you talk of Obi, Obi was in Anambra governor. He was impeached. If he had done very well, he could have not been impeached. For El-Rufai you are talking about, he was one of those who was Director General when they liquidated 34 parastats of Basojo and Atiku, they are made called jobless. I'm a pensioner, retired 1990. I joined PDP 1990, even before Basojo. And it's not because of APC government. May God bless them.
All right.
And that is a fact. I pray when you people get to my age, you will retire and enjoy the benefits of what you have worked for. Because I not be getting what you want. Many people have died today. El-Rufai have never been a councillor or a chairman anywhere. He finds himself Director General and become a Minister of Federal Capital. All the land you are seeing today that were sold to all PDP members, which we is correcting today. Conclusively, I want to tell you people should support this government.
All right, thank you.
Forming an accusation of failure.
All right, thank you, Elder David. I appreciate. I think we can pass our points without smearing individuals or making remarks on them. Just make your points clear and very, very clear without
that was before we took that call from Elder David. I was talking about EFCC's spectacular arrest of NNPC.
You know, I've always said that the NNPC has been a clog in the wheel of the nation's progress. And I told you that with the advent of Dangote, a lot will be revealed. And NNPC, at that time, I predicted that it's on its way out, similar to how other government agencies fail when their sectors are deregulated. So when you see what
exposes.
Yeah. So we've not seen anything. We need to know what has happened to that organization, to our country. The biggest corruption that has ever happened in the petroleum sector. Sanusi, under Jonathan, was removed because of an alarm that money is missing. And the NNPC was not remitting. And it was removed because the government could not take that kind of alarm, which you can't pin, substantiate. He has the idea that something is missing, but he really cannot put a finger to it. Look at turnaround maintenance that they've turned around. Including the last attempt that they actually. So it now looked at Air Nigeria, another Air Nigeria. Another Air Nigeria played out.
And there was a media parley. They took journalists.
In fact, I actually disagree with those who said it didn't work because I was too happy that it's working. I wanted it to work.
We have another caller from Port Harcourt. Maybe he's going to share with us what he thinks about the Warri refinery not working, and most importantly, the arrest of the MD of the Port Harcourt refinery. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, Mr. Mohammed. Please go ahead.
My name is Alhaji Hassan Mohammed Ndabagi. I'm calling from Port Harcourt.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I think anybody that is coming to condemn the decision of anybody that wants to launch a new political party, I think it should be unreasonable for any person to think so, because if you look at the checks and balances, the three types of government, the judiciary, legislature, and executive have now been merged into one house, where the checks and balances is no more there, where we are running into a one-party system, and which is not good for us as the people. Whether they will succeed or not, that is a question that is waiting for an answer for another day. So when we get to the bridge, we will now know how to cross it. Then secondly, I want to urge the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to ask a lot of people that are camping productive Nigerians in IDP camp without resettlement and relocation. And I am talking about the Benue State where I grew up and I was born and brought up. People have been in IDP camp since 2009, and somebody is telling me it has become a business where the elite will camp productive men and women without making any effort of resettlement, rehabilitation, and otherwise. And they keep on getting money from donor agencies without any positive value. I think if there's crisis and the people stay for a period of time, the next thing is you talk about resettlement and you talk about rehabilitation and so on and so forth. They keep on saying years upon years. Are we ranching animals? I think the answer is no. So I think I urge the government to take security as a topmost priority so that things will go well for the government and the people will now be productive and they can go back to their farms and business. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, your reaction to that?
Yes, to what he said. Well, we didn't say we are not criticizing them. We're only analyzing and taking a look at the chances and what they are doing. Absolutely. So where no one is against their move, they are being registered and they're giving media space to express themselves. I believe that they need, if you want to fight, the mere fact that you came out does not mean that you are doing a good job. You have to do a good job at it. You don't, it's not sentimental. It's a very serious business to want to unseat an incumbent government. And if we look back, the APC did a good job at it, and so they need to buckle up and do more. You see, you need to tell Nigerians a believable story. Criticizing what is going on is the easiest thing. You need to tell us, okay, if Tinubu did wrong here, what are you coming to do differently?
A viable alternative.
Yes, they need to know what they're buying into.
He also talked about the issue of IDP camps.
Yes.
In Borno State, we've seen places like Malam Fatori that had IDP camps. We've seen a sort of resettlement program because it's an anomaly for people to permanently leave as internally displaced persons in their own countries, in their own country. And he highlighted the situation in Benue there. Why is it? Is it a business model? In whose interest? Is it to leave people in IDP camps for long?
Was it directed? I thought it directed that at the federal government.
Yes.
Was it a proper place to direct that question? That's the Borno State government matter.
Benue State government.
It's the same thing. Yes. You see, what you see Tinubu do in his management of Nigerian security is to ask the governors to step into their place. The Constitution has not done very well in defining the role of government. That's why you see in the security summit that they had, Tinubu's proposal was that the Senate, the National Assembly, should tinker and work out more definite and specific roles for governors in management of security in the country. Currently, it's still about, there's nothing so concrete because the military that fashioned the Constitution wanted to have ultimate central power at the same time having a federation.
Which in turn is not
working
good.
now.
It's not working.
So now it's affecting us because we are practicing the democratic, where sometimes some states are in opposition with the ruling party. So because of that, sometimes you think responses to your state is happening because you are not part of the center. But look at Benue now. When Autumn was there, Autumn was lamenting, with a loud voice, with a lamentatious voice. Why the governor today is exonerating the federal government and praising them, whereas the people are saying we are being killed. You see the contradiction. So it's confusing to the opposition could not see the ammunition. Because the governor says, they have done enough for me. So the president the governor is supposed to tell you that it's not doing well. The governor is telling you the military tried. They made effort. Then the president says, you people should go sit down and solve it. It left it for them. But we are not used to that. But that is how the Nigerian Constitution is. But we have not practiced it.
That's very key. Anyway, let's look at another story right there at on the front page of The Guardian. Let's stick to The Guardian this time. Gbenga, you did take that story that says Abuja safe, no cause for alarm, measures amid U.S. travel warning. There's a travel advice from the U.S. Embassy.
So whose intelligence do we follow?
We first, as citizens of a country, you follow your government because the United States do not love us more than our government.
They are dual Nigerian and American citizens.
When they make these things, they've done this some time back and nothing. So it's good, it's an alert, but when you make it public, it affects it's like you go into a father's house and you tell the children they are not safe to the embarrassment of their father. So they should tread cautiously and not promote confusion in the period where Nigeria... Because right now, you see...
anxiety.
Yes, the country is moving and things are happening that are not supposed to happen. We're moving to an election era. Let me tell you, the herdsman-farmer clash can be instigated. Let me give you a simple story. You can have a politician or someone who is mischievous go rustle some cattle or kill them. He did it in a village and put the blame on that village. Now, the farmer, the herders, could want to do a reprisal attack, but it was instigated by someone else who deliberately stoked the fire.
Okay.
It's possible. So the Nigerian government should always look at that factor.
That's another one. Do we have a caller? Let's see if we do. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good
Mr. Bello.
Okay.
Good morning.
Yes. Go ahead and make your contribution, please.
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, good morning. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. Thank you for the good job doing. Most especially the man at the middle. I really love your analysis. You see, regarding this new party, ADA or whatever, or cosmetics that they are trying to gather, I don't think Nigeria, we don't need these people, all this old cargo again. You can imagine all the people that parading themselves. These are the people who pocket Nigeria resources. Are they now saying that they are bringing all what they do to the overseas country? Are they bringing it back to the economy, or what are they doing? Instead of them to bring all the looted money back to Nigeria and team up with Tinubu so that Nigeria will be better for everybody. So for me, all what they are doing, they are just parabolating. Like the other man said the other time, that if their party is dead or alive. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. It says party dead on arrival.
I hear Bode George also condemning the move.
Yes,
that's
yes.
A weak attempt.
On the Guardian.
That's a big one.
A lot of PDP stalwarts have come out to say that it's a wrong move. And I think there's a seemingly rush to ensure that these parties are formed on time so you can register with INEC and then get on. And then we're also hearing that it's not just one coalition. There's another coalition coming. Because while speaking to some of these politicians and trying to reach out to them to speak on this, some of them have said, oh, you know what, the one you see is not ours.
Is it that the opposition isn't doing a proper job at opposition, or the Nigerian electorate is wiser? Because when former President Jonathan was ousted from power when he lost to President Buhari, it was almost anybody but Jonathan. And they've seen how that played out. So the electorate is more coy and more circumspect in choosing, in scrutinizing the opposition. Or is it that the opposition is just doing a terrible job at opposition?
For you to be able to oppose, to play the role of opposition effectively and galvanize yourself to the point of being accepted by the people, you have to be very united. And you have to have formidable forces and individuals.
Because remember Alhaji Lai Mohammed, as publicity secretary of the APC back then,
it was very
policy
consistent.
issues, it was consistent.
Yeah. So we need to find that among them. And again, they've not been able to attract political forces that have political capital. When the APC brought a Buhari 12 million votes in the kitty with Tinubu's Southwest control, it was very difficult to defeat them. In this case, they've not been able to show that they have something even in the Southeast. Obi is not even flowing with them. This is more like a northern coalition. A northern coalition.
Yeah. And even that north is still fractured because you have the Ganduje, the Kwankwanso.
The real political players are not with them. Apart from Atiku and El Rufai, who did not even win in his state for the APC in the last, Tinubu lost in Kaduna State.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It's really a tough one.
They know it every day. They see that it's slipping off their hands. And another thing is that you must also believe that even the media, you have to really have media behind you.
Yeah.
The media is suspicious. The media is not too sure of them. The media is too intelligent for you to simply say we pay them. The media now, it's not just about paying them. It's not about receiving payments and then you are, no. The media now is even more scrutinized because the media is also in the public eye. The people are also checking the media.
Anyway, let's see if we can take one last story very quickly. Let's go to New Telegraph. We are almost out of time. We have 2 minutes. New Telegraph, just one big story there. 10th NAS, 32 reps defected to different parties in 2 years. What does this say about Nigeria's National Assembly or our parliament?
I mean, 32 out of 360 members.
It's not a big deal.
If you look at it percentage-wise, it's minuscule.
It's not something that is...
So nothing to worry about?
No.
All right. Anyway.
And also, federal government cuts debt service commitment to 60%, net 6.9 trillion in Q1 25 revenue drive.
Cut what?
The debt service commitment to 60%, net 6.9 trillion in Q1.
Yeah, that is revenue. In terms of revenue.
Yes.
Fantastic. You know, this is the good news that as a country, we love our country. The world is not friendly to people migrating to their countries. We need Nigeria to prosper so that the level of poverty will reduce indeed, not incubating poverty.
And the question is it, what are these monies used for? Is it recurrent expenditure, servicing
Is it supposed to be used for infrastructural development so that when our people, the lives are improved, investors will want to come here. We need to do, there's a lot of work to be done. And I am hoping that governors that are having it so good will put the money in the right place and the citizens will feel it and see it. For example, I am beginning to see that if the president is, look at the tractors, the agricultural thing, that's a fantastic move. We need to see more of that. And I'm happy that governors are beginning to want to show themselves, because if you have the resources, you want to do something.
But many
we don't have street lights.
But many will argue with you that the tractors are just 200. How many 2,000, I beg your pardon. How many states will be able to share that among themselves? One, secondly, this is not the first time that there are tractors being provided. The question is, there's insecurities. How do you want to use your tractor?
No, see, insecurity is not pervasive in Nigeria. But there is insecurity. The reason is that sometimes we blow them out of proportion. It's where politicians are going to use it anyway, so it's part of the tools of the politicians. But we have insecurity. Every day, people are transversing the length and breadth of Nigeria today. If we go to the motor parks, all the transport companies, they load full as much as they want to do. Cost of transportation has gone up because that's why traveling has reduced. So I think, let's be positive. What I want to talk about, there is this argument that why build ranches? That is a private business. But we all know that cattle rearing is a private business. But government must provide infrastructure, just like they provide for airports, for motor parks, for markets, abattoirs. So you need to help that industry so that you can improve on security, so that the farmers and the herders will hardly meet each other in their farms. I think we need to...
Win-win situation.
Win-win. Anyway, on a win-win note, we've wrapped up the show today here on Breakfast Central. Thanking you very much for staying with us. It's been 3 hours of fulfilled programming. And our programming doesn't stop here. Jasiri will be up next at 10 a.m. where the ladies will be discussing very insightful, very, very insightful news. And you could say you wouldn't have to miss it at all. Just stay glued to your TV set and you would enjoy it.
Thank you, Mr. Theophilus Akatuba.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure here, as always.
Thanks to our callers as well. I'm Joe
Well
Hansen.
done.
And I'm Benga Bora. See you tomorrow.